How's it going, guys? Welcome back to another YouTube channel video. Today we're going for a quick drive in my 2019 4Runner Limited Nightshade, and we're going to talk about some of the pros and cons, or some of the likes and dislikes about this vehicle. I've had this car since about 2020, and I've put just over 87,000 miles on the clock. So what better time than now to talk about some of the things that I like and don't like about this car. So let's get right into it. Starting off with number one of the things that I like about this car. I feel like everybody knows this, don't have to say it, but I'm just gonna go ahead and say it for the sake of this video. It is the Toyota reliability that you get with this car. This 4-liter V6 has been proven, and same with the 5-speed transmission that you find on these 5th gen 4Runners. Gives me a little bit of a peace of mind. These things have been known to go for 250, 500,000, even 1,000,000 miles just on oil changes. And so far, like I said, after 87,000 miles, I do synthetic oil changes every 5,000 miles, and I've had zero issues with this powertrain so far. It has proven itself to be bulletproof, and I look forward to many miles down the line with this car. Now, coming up on number two for things that I like about my 4Runner, this goes for all 4Runners, but it is the aftermarket support. There are an extensive number of modifications out there for these cars. I can almost guarantee if you think of something that you want to modify your car with, it exists. You just have to find it, buy it, and install it into your 4Runner. There are sites like 4Runner Lifestyle, Yoda Mafia, Trail Grid Pro, and trail4runner.com, but I mean, this is just naming a few of them. But there really are an extensive number of modifications out there for these cars. It allows you to tailor these cars to your liking and adds a little bit of a personal touch and your own uniqueness to each of these cars. Now, some of the major modifications that I've made to my 4Runner include this aftermarket Sony head unit that I've just powered off for now for this video, but it allows for Apple CarPlay. It's got a bigger screen, and for the last couple years that I've used it, it has been phenomenal. It's from Trail Grid Pro, and this whole kit just allows you to seamlessly integrate it into the stock dashboard with this sort of dash surround that they include in the kit, and it really works out fantastic. I've also got LED high and low beams, LED fog lights, and turn signals up front. I've got a LED blacked out sequential turn signal on the mirrors. I've also got the non-limited side skirt conversion kit. Pretty much just got those parts from Toyota and installed it so that I can throw on the N-Fab Nerf bars on the sides of the vehicle. And I've also got AlphaRex Pro taillights in jet black in the back. I've added sound deadening to all the doors. It made the audio a little bit crisper and the cabin a little bit quieter. I've got a Pelican case up top, and I also have Bilstein 5100 suspension or shocks with OME springs and SPC upper control arms. And that's not even naming all the small little things I have throughout this vehicle. And that's not even scratching the surface on the modifications that are available for this car. So get out there, look at some of the sites, and see what meets your needs and matches your build for your 4Runner. Now, for number three on the things that I like about my 4Runner, it is the simplicity of the interior. With these new modern cars, there's a lot of screens everywhere. The dash is a screen, the head unit's a giant screen, sometimes the passenger even gets a screen. It's just too many screens. You're pretty much driving a television. And sometimes I don't want to dig into 3 different menus to change my climate controls. Sometimes the screen freezes up, and then I just lose all functionality of some of the basic things a car can do. However, with this 4Runner, with all these physical buttons, these giant dials to change the climate controls, this analog tack, it's just refreshing to hop into this car and see this and just enjoy the simplicity of the interior right at your fingertips. And for number 4 of things that I like, we're going to talk about the comfort and ruggedness that you find within these 4Runners. Now, I want to preface, this car is not an extremely comfortable car by any means. You're not going to hop into it and feel like you're in a Rolls Royce. But when you compare it to other cars in its sector, let's talk maybe the Jeep Wrangler or the Ford Bronco, maybe even the Ineos Grenadier, even if it's at a little bit of a higher price point. These are all body-on-frame SUVs with sort of a rugged design or purpose. However, with those cars, you're going to find a solid front axle. And while it may be really good for off-road capability and performance, when you're just daily driving the cars, it's not going to drive super well on road. Whereas this 4Runner has independent front suspension, so it is a little bit more compliant, a little bit more appropriate for on-road driving and daily driving, and that's why I honestly think it's a great thing for this car. Let's be honest, a lot of people with 4Runners aren't going to be doing any extreme off-roading. It's going to be a lot of daily driving, taking people and cargo from place to place. So for that purpose, I think that this car has an awesome combination of ruggedness and comfort. With that being said, these cars are still very capable. Any trails and light off-roading that I've personally done, this car has been able to tackle it with zero problem. And I've seen some videos online of people doing some pretty extreme things with these cars, so they are definitely capable for what they are. Now, I could talk about the things that I like about this car all day long. It really has been an awesome car to own, and I don't plan on giving it up anytime soon. This is going to be in the fleet forever. But with that being said, we're going to go with our last thing that we like as number 5, and that is the size and practicality package of this 4Runner. Now, this is subjective to sort of my personal needs, but I think that this car is the perfect balance of being big enough and also just having the perfect amount of cargo space for what I need. Now, SUVs are kind of everywhere now. Everyone wants an SUV, so they come in a lot of different sizes and styles and purposes. For example, you've got bigger SUVs than this, like the Escalade, the Tahoe, the Suburban, which all serve an awesome purpose. They can haul a ton of people and a ton of cargo on long road trips, but that's not what I need. And there's also a lot of smaller ones out there, you know, like compact SUVs or even crossover SUVs that I feel wouldn't be enough space for me to haul, you know, let's say my golf clubs with my friends on a golfing trip, or, you know, hauling my fishing gear or camping gear. This car, I feel, is just the perfect middle ground for the size and practicality, the cargo capacity. It really has just been perfect. I've never had an instance where I felt like this car didn't have enough cargo space. I've also never had any instances where I thought this vehicle was too big on the road. And this might just be a personal, you know, sort of opinion, but just driving this car on the road through the city, you know, tight parking lots, I've never had a time where I was like, this car's a little too big, you know, for daily driving. Whereas I feel like some other cars out there, like I talked about, those Escalades, Suburbans, Tahoes, they serve an awesome purpose, and if you need one, hey, you need one, you know? But for me, not needing one, I feel like just having that car would be cumbersome to navigate through the city for daily driving purposes. That's why I think that this 4Runner is just kind of a perfect middle ground size. Now that we've talked about the things that I like about this 4Runner, let's talk about the things that I don't like so much. And just to say up front, these are not real deal breakers for me, but just some things that I've noticed. And you kind of go into 5th gen 4Runner ownership knowing these things up front. So let's just jump right into it. For number 1, we've got the fuel economy and efficiency. I understand. You don't buy a 5th gen 4Runner for its fuel economy or its efficiency. That's not its purpose. Its purpose is to be a rugged, durable, capable SUV that lasts a long time. But I just can't help but notice when I click through this menu, I've been averaging 14.1 miles per gallon. Now that's combined, that's city and highway driving, just overall. But that's not super great. You know, I've gotten to know the gas stations around my area quite well. Now, I do have to say, I do have some modifications on this vehicle that lower its fuel economy. You know, I've got bigger tires. I've got 275, 55, 20s, BFG KO2s. And I also have that Bilstein 5100 lift kit that I put on the car. So 2.5 inches up front and 2 in the rear that all contribute to sort of bringing the fuel economy down a little bit. When this car was bone stock, I think on the highway, I was able to push out 19 or 20 miles per gallon on the highway. But with that being said, of course, you don't buy this car for its fuel economy, but I wouldn't mind seeing that number being a little bit higher. Now, for number 2 of things that I don't like about my 4Runner, this is specific to the limited trim models, but it is the Cross Relative Absorption Suspension System, or XREAS. Now, if you're not familiar with this system, it's pretty complex for what this vehicle is. Essentially, the front passenger side shock absorber is hydraulically connected to the rear driver's side, and the front driver's side is connected to the rear passenger side. And these interconnected systems transfer hydraulic fluid to one another, and they, you know, are made to stiffen up in certain scenarios. It's great for on-road performance, but they tend to fail really frequently. And I actually had my XREAS system start to leak at around 70,000 miles. I headed over to the dealership and, I asked them, give me a quote for if you guys were going to replace this system with the XREAS. And since it's a pressurized system and since it's complex, they quoted me $4,500. If I'm spending $4,500 on shocks, I'm not going to put the XREAS system back on. I'm going to put King or Icon remote reservoir with full adjustabilities on. I'm not going to put a system that might fail again in another 50,000 miles. I've read on the forums that some people have had really unlucky situations where they've had their systems fail 2 or 3 times in 100,000 miles. I replaced this system with Bilstein 5100s, with Omi springs and SPC upper control arms, and I think the whole package was about $1,700, and I installed it myself in my driveway with a set of jack stands. It took about 6 hours, but I guess my 4Runner is kind of eliminated from that happening again, so I guess problem is solved. Now, for the third and final thing that I don't like about this 4Runner, and I just want to say that we are really trying to find small things that we don't like about this car, but that has to do with the size of the wheel wells. Now, you might be saying, what does the size of the wheel wells have to do with anything? If you want to put a 285/70 R17 tire on this vehicle, which is a very common, popular size that people tend to upgrade to, you're going to have to do a lift, and you're also probably going to have to do some trimming on the fender liner or the bumper, and you're going to want to hope that you don't have to do a body mount chop. Toyota knows that people are going to modify these vehicles and, probably put bigger tires on them. I just think it's a little bit of a shame that you have to go through pretty extensive modifications to bump up the tire size from a 265 to a 285, or I guess in the case of these limited tires, go from a 245 to a 285, or right now I'm running a 275, like I said. But even with that size, I had to do a fender liner pushback, and I had to do some minor trimming to make it fit. I know they solved that issue with the 6th gen. I've seen people stuff some pretty big tires underneath those cars, so that's pretty cool to see. But I do wish they kind of had that for the 5th gen without having to do so many modifications to the front end. Now, with those 5 things that I like and 3 things that I don't like, that's going to go ahead and wrap up this video. With that being said, guys, this car has been awesome to own. I've got 87,000 miles on it, and I plan to drive it until it can't drive anymore. And if you're thinking about getting a 5th gen 4Runner, I highly recommend it. If you have any questions about 5th gen 4Runners or 4Runners in general, throw them in the comments down below. And if you have a 5th gen 4Runner, what are some of the things that you like about your car, don't like about your car, and some of the modifications that you've made to your own? As always, thank you guys for watching this video. Make sure to subscribe and like this video. We're going to have more 4Runner content and other cars coming to the channel here soon, so make sure you stay tuned for the next episode. I'll catch you guys soon.